Hello and welcome to Contra Mundum. I am your host, Pastor Andrew Isker, and please welcome my co-host, CJ Engel. Hello, CJ. How are you? How was your week?
The funny thing is, like, I don't know how you're going to ask the question. I don't know what I'm going to say, so I'm just like, this is the opening. Okay, the opening is our worst, my worst, feature. Like, this is.
Yeah,
I just
speak for
can't do
yourself.
openings.
I like how I do.
I think you do a good job. Yes, I need to practice.
Thank you. Well, speaking of the opening, how was your week? What'd you do this week? You must have had a really busy week because you were going to ship me some Greco gum, and I never got any. So what's going on there?
I think this is for you, but I'm going to eat it. Here's the thing. Here, let me tell you the thing. I'm anti. I can't go to the post office. I'm terrible. Like, the thought of it overwhelms me. Like, I got to figure out like the packaging and the tape and the postage. And I got to talk to the lady at the kiosk or whatever. Like, I just can't do it. I'm not set up for that. Like, I'll buy things on Amazon and it needs to be returned, but I'm like, look, I'm out the money.
Good luck.
I tell my wife I'm out I can't go to the UPS store. I'm sorry. Can't
do it. Yeah, I the same thing happens to me. My wife is going to listen to this, and she will the entire time be saying, "Yep, that's just like Andrew." We've had for a month. We've had this like insurance claim on a Nintendo Switch for my son. The screen got cracked or something. Thing got broken, and I'm like, "Great, we have the insurance on it. We paid a little extra when we bought it because we have kids that damage things, and that's just what happens." And for a month, it's been sitting there, and all I have to do is put it in a package, tape it up, and go to the UPS store. But the problem is, I love having a routine. I like my routine. I like doing the same thing every single day of the week at the same time. And spending half an hour at the UPS store or at the post office or whatever, that messes up my whole day. Mm-hmm. Ruins my day. I can't get that half an hour back. And it's just awful. So I understand. I totally understand.
Oh, I know.
I did get to have some Greco gum last week though. So I'll just say that.
You actually bought some.
No, I didn't. I'm still a freeloader, but
It's your secret.
Some of the guys down in Texas had it, and I tried it, and it was amazing. I mean, it tore up my cheeks a little bit the first time.
You
that's
bite your cheeks, right?
Yeah.
I do that too. I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
I think it's a harder chew. It's a masculine chew. It's a jaw builder.
Yeah, look at this. I mean, I think it had an effect. So, yeah. So anyway, I'm glad you had a busy week. I had a busy week too, and including part of your week is a random crazy person who is we'll talk about this more, but probably a paid NGO, CIA deep state operative online, attacked our show. He had like 10 followers online, but like he attacked our show, or she. And especially how did he attack our show? Because CJ referenced the German political theorist and legal thinker Carl Schmitt. And so can you confirm, CJ, that the C in CJ stands for Carl Schmitt? Is that correct?
It does stand for Carl Schmitt. Absolutely.
Okay.
It actually really does stand for Carl. Unfortunately, my parents only went halfway on it.
That's too bad.
But my last name is Engel, so there's like Friedrich Engels. So yeah, I have all kinds of German controversy in my name.
I know, that's terrible. Yeah, that's awful. So, what was this controversy about? And this person actually made a video and tried to play this stupid association game where it's like, well, Carl Schmitt was around in the middle of the 20th century in Germany, so you know what that means.
He had copied and pasted. He probably had never heard Carl Schmitt, so he copied and pasted his name into Google, found the Wikipedia article, and just copied and pasted, and he's like, boom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, you literally
had
Googled
it
that.
even had the phonetic,
this
pronunciation of Schmitt. Like, we don't know how to pronounce Schmitt. It's like, come on, what is? I mean, yeah, good job on the Wikipedia search. It was probably Joe Carter's anon account, if you know who that is. I will let's here's what we should do right here. You can see he actually made this guy, skilled graphic designer, made a cool graphic for CJ.
Yes, I'm very
So
thankful for his hard work.
this is CJ's quote from last week's episode. They really didn't take the lessons of, well, someone like Carl Schmitt, who is someone that I look to, ellipses, to look beyond the horizons of the liberal framing of things. C.J. Engel. That's
Beautiful.
beautiful,
Beautiful
beautiful,
quote. Uh-huh.
beautiful quote.
I printed it out, and it's on my wall, and my wife thinks it's creepy.
Yeah, do you have like how people would like print out athletes, like the fat head? You could get a fat head of like Michael Jordan or LeBron James or something. Do you have a fat head of this quote, of this graphic?
Of course.
Oh,
Why
excellent.
wouldn't I? It's above the bed.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Keep it
So
there.
I mean, obviously, Carl Schmitt is should it be controversial? I mean, I replied to this guy too and said like, look, I mean, your Wikipedia search probably didn't cover this, but Schmitt's criticism of liberalism is because he wanted to avoid the Third Reich.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted the Weimar government to get stronger, so that a reaction to the weakness of liberalism, which was allowing communist revolution, was going to provoke a very hard right reaction, and
a hard left. He recognized
either way,
that a liberal government that doesn't have the means to protect itself or defend its own takeover is susceptible to being subverted and occupied by a more radical ideology, which when the more radical party comes in, they don't have the same liberal commitments as you do, and so then therefore they are the ones that can eliminate the ability for other parties to compete. That's the problem with liberalism, is it doesn't have the tools to prevent its own takeover. And so he was saying, and this is exactly what happened in so many other liberal countries. And then it happened with Hitler. Hitler took office, and Hitler's not a liberal. So Hitler prevented any deviation, and anybody who opposed Hitler was on the outs. And this is exactly what Carl Schmitt warned about. And he said that was the fatal flaw of a liberal state.
Yeah, it's going to produce a totalitarian result, one way or the other. Yeah, and so that's the hilarious thing about this guy is, Schmitt was actually vindicated. Like, his political theory was vindicated and proven right by history. And so these are like you said, these are lessons that we should be learning. And actually, I can announce today our guest next week is going to be none other than Charles Haywood. We're going to have Charles Haywood at the Worthy House as our guest this week. Some of you know him, and if you don't, you should. But we're going to talk all about Carl Schmitt and the concept of the political. We'll talk about Inimicus and Hustes, and the Sermon on the Mount and what those things mean. So hopefully that whets your appetite a little bit.
Let me just say
next time.
Let me just say one more thing about Carl Schmitt. One of the founders of like the modern conservative milieu was Leo Strauss. The Straussians have kind of dominated the intellectual side of the conservative movement, and Paul Gottfried has spent a lot of his career confronting Straussian thinking. But Leo Strauss, who is Jewish, he spent many decades in letters and correspondence and interaction as a friend of Carl Schmitt. So like, this is something that was completely normal in that century to deal with, the critique of liberalism from the perspective of Schmitt's concept of the political. And so the Straussians, had to confront this and interact with him. They didn't do it in this weird whining, like, oh, you're associated with the Nazis. Like, you don't participate in that as a serious thinker, so.
Well, that's the thing. Like, when we had serious thinkers, you could look at ideas and not play this stupid association game where it's like, oh, here we're gonna play 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon with every thinker. Well, I mean, that's so weak and pathetic, and I have zero respect for people who do that. Like, I mean, I read Saul Alinsky, and I think everybody here, everyone listening to us should as well. Does that mean that I am a left wing communist radical? Of course not. I mean, you should read very broadly and widely all sorts of political thoughts and ideas. And so that, because sometimes bad people are right about certain things. Sometimes bad people have correct opinions. How about that? They don't have to be a virtuous. And Schmitt, I mean, admittedly, even besides the association with the Third Reich, on top of that, like, was just a weird guy. We could get into some of the bizarre things. This is a family show, so we shouldn't get into some of the bizarreness of Schmitt.
It was a
But
bizarre time in Germany. I'll say that.
Yes, yeah, he fit in Weimar. We'll put it that way. But he is worth reading and listening to because it's the ideas and the thoughts. I mean, same thing with we talked about this. I think we talked about this last week. Like Aristotle, right? You read Aristotle, and like Aristotle believes some monstrous things. Plato too. All the Roman thinkers as well believe monstrous, horrible things. But nobody's like, I can't believe that you would read Aristotle. Like he was okay with exposing children and abortion and mass murder and genocide and things like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I mean, well, woke people do that now. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
woke classicists do that. But no one serious, no one worth listening to does that. And you shouldn't with this because these ideas are correct. I mean, one of the things too, like I've preached through the Gospel of Matthew before, and preached on the Sermon on the Mount, and I had actually when I preached, I had never read a single word of Schmitt's. But I came to the same conclusion that he did on the Sermon on the Mount, that when Jesus is talking about turning the other cheek, he's not talking about how you should be a pacifist. He's talking about personal enemies, people you have grudges with. That's who you turn the other cheek to.
Right.
He's not saying that if your nation is at war with another nation, you should just lay down your arms.
Well,
Um,
it's hilarious, like how many people like they'll just emphasize the fact that we shouldn't use like biblical themes in order to have a political theology, that we shouldn't use like the Bible at all. It has no relevance
yeah.
to, and then they'll cite
Except
this is like the Russell Moore like type things, except for
yeah.
they will cite those when it's convenient to uphold the liberal democratic framework, right?
Yes.
That's when it's
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. Now you need to love your enemies. Now, I mean,
Right.
Leviticus, and Exodus, it says something about the alien and the sojourners, so that means we should just have open
Right.
borders.
Right.
So like they turn in like just on that little issue, they turn into Rousseau's J. Rushdoony, right?
Right. It is
That's
funny
what
that like
happens.
that is a style of like Christian nationalism, right?
Yeah.
Like literally, and this is actually the history of like liberal Protestantism, like the progressive movement, is they
Yes.
would take these themes and they would justify their own leftward momentum by these biblical themes. Like this is completely par for the course. But suddenly when someone is using the Bible to promote like a right
Yes.
wing position on something, oh, we can't use the Bible for that. That's completely unacceptable. And like it's hilarious. And I don't want to I don't want to blame them for like hypocrisy as if that's the only problem here, because like like Stephen Wolf and other people mentioned, it's not just hypocrisy. It's all about framework reinforcement. It's all about narrative reinforcement. That's what's going on here.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I mean, because you even have this going back to the mid 19th century. In like this whole theme, like you have uh, Beecher, Henry Ward Beecher, and that whole family of preachers. They would do this. The early progressive mainliners. You'd have it with like Harry Emerson Fosdick later on. I mean, you have that whole. This is what they did. It's retconning the Bible to fit the political
Right.
ideas of the day, rather than honestly looking at the tradition of political theology as it slowly developed organically over millennia. They
Mm-hmm.
just throw that in the trash and they say, nope, we're gonna pull this like bait and switch, and we're just gonna
Right.
tack on a Bible verse to
It's
whatever we were gonna do anyway.
it's left wing transformationalism. That's what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And we'll get to guys like Russell Moore and David French in a few minutes. But before we do, before we do that, we'll get to the one guy, the single guy who triggers them the most, and that is former President Donald J. Trump. And so President Trump, yesterday, at the time of the recording here, yesterday he had a town hall on CNN. He went on CNN into a hostile environment, although credit to CNN. This is not something I'm accustomed to saying. Credit to CNN. They had ostensibly Trump supporters in the audience, like half and half. So he does this town hall, and it. Did you get to see any of it, CJ, or did you see any clips?
I saw clips that were going around.
Okay, yeah. It was the entire time I'm seeing this, and I'm like, we are back, baby. Let's go. Like big 2015, 2016 energy from this, and again, before we even get into praising Donald J. Trump, we could run off the laundry list of issues and problems both with MAGA Inc. and the man himself and his presidency and all of these things,
because it's not about Trump. Like, you know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, that's the
Yeah.
thing. It's the symbol. It's the fact
Yes.
of all the derision and like all the anger that the media elite have for heritage Americans. That's what's going on here. That's what Trump represents.
Yes, exactly. So again, my praise for him, even though like he is really funny. So I'll praise the man for that.
He's funny because he's mocking the people that hate us the most.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so when I praise him, like any praise that here or posting online, any praise that I make for him is not, oh, I think he's just so great and he's so awesome and he could do no wrong. Not at all. Like there are plenty of mistakes that he made, things that he definitely seriously messed up. All that is to say, the big E on the eye chart, right, for the American political situation in 2024 is this really the same as it was in 2016, is that there is a hostile regime that hates Americans, that rules over Americans, that's actively, consciously making the lives of ordinary Americans worse on purpose, to extract wealth from them, to make you miserable, and to take your own country away from you and from your children. Right? You have an enemy regime that rules over you and hates you, and he, more than anybody else, is fighting it and drawing them out. Because how they survive is they hide behind all of the pieties of the American political system. Like, oh, we're just statesmen and we're doing statesman stuff, and we're gonna have John McCain, this odious cretin, disgusting person, lie in state and have this big glorious funeral like the Soviet Union for him, and all of it is sick and disgusting, but people eat it up, or they used to. But then, and we're going to be bipartisan, and we love America, and we're going to pretend every day is September 12th, 2021, right? Then, here comes Donald Trump, and he's actually representing the issues and the concerns of ordinary Americans who have been getting hosed for 50 or 60 years, and all the knives come out in every angle and every direction for him because of this. So that's why people love him. That's why he has this base that's never going to abandon him, no matter how much he messes things up, because he is delegitimizing the regime. Obviously, they don't have the vocabulary for that, like the typical MAGA voter, but they have the instincts for it. They understand this, that these are evil people. They're evil people that rule over us, and he is making them look stupid. And he's making them, showing just how evil they are and how much they don't care about the law, how much they break these rules. Even, I mean, we could talk about also later on the Biden money laundering, foreign money scandals, and the family taking all this money from China and Russia and all these other countries. And some of it's silly and a sideshow. It's like, well, they don't arrest anybody. There's nothing they can do. But and sometimes you feel bad for like Jim Jordan coming out there and like spending all this time and taking it all very seriously, because they all know nothing is going to happen. So they have to go through these motions. But it still heightens, right, this distinction that there are two standards for justice, and Trump actually talks about this. But I'll let him talk. We'll play some of the greatest hits from the town hall here. Here we go.
By a crazy woman named Nancy
But
Pelosi.
the question here is, would you give Ukraine weapons and funding if you were?
I would sit down. Let me just put it a nicer way. If I'm president, I will have that war settled in one day, 24 hours.
How would you settle that war in one day?
Because I'll meet with Putin. I'll meet with Zelensky. They both have weaknesses and they both have strengths. And within 24 hours, that war will be settled. It'll be over. It'll be absolutely over.
Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I don't think in terms of winning and losing. I think in terms of getting it settled so we stop killing all these people and breaking out. Now,
it's fantastic. That's the exact right answer. The
Yeah.
absolutely exact right answer. He doesn't have to say, because obviously he can't say, well, I really want Russia to win the war.
Yeah.
He can't say that.
They tried to set him up for something.
Yeah, they want him to say that, because then they can continue with this insane conspiracy. Like this is the other thing. is like the collusion hoax, all these things. They're all totally fake conspiracy theories that are pushed on the American people to believe that Russia hacked our election. Like, this is crazier stuff than anything Alex Jones has ever said. That these people push in the mainstream and like brain dead libs believe, right? Like, you see a person in a mask down your street, and you could be assured that that person, right, believes that Donald Trump was installed in the White House by Vladimir Putin. Like, they in their heart of hearts, they sincerely believe it. And so he can't say that, but he can say the right thing, which is, well, we'll negotiate an end to the war. Right? And he didn't get into the details about what the concessions would be. Obviously, if you're negotiating an end to the war, there would have to be, Russia getting the Donbass. Like, they're not going to accept anything less than that. And so it might come at American security guarantees. That would probably be how you negotiate the end of the war. I mean, he could draw a tough line and just say, we're not supporting you anymore. So good luck. Too. I mean, all of these things, like he could end it in like the American government now, the American regime that rules now. We know this. We've talked about this before. They could have ended the war in the first couple of weeks. Zelensky was ready to end the war and just hand over the Donbass to Russia.
Well,
and
the entire
United States didn't allow that.
The entire structure of the conflict right now depends on U.S. affirmation that it needs to go on. Like, not only do we subsidize them financially and militarily, but we're also refusing any mechanisms that could resolve it right now. I mean, this is and look, this is really similar to how things have gone down in the 20th century. Like, America, wherever America puts its weight, that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
Like, World War II would have been over way earlier if we hadn't issued, if we hadn't backed Britain and behind the scenes on Britain. World War I wouldn't have taken place and come westward if we hadn't participated in various ways. Like, this is just kind of the way it is. And the idea that, like, America is this neutral party is ridiculous.
No, America, I mean, this war is happening. People need to understand this. This war is happening because the United States wants the war to happen.
Right.
That's why it's happening. Russia was backed into a corner where all of these ethnic Russians who have always lived in the Donbass since it was, settled as a, mining and iron producing, colony, basically. It was really empty until really like the 19th century. It gets settled, and it's been Russian, ethnically Russian for hundreds of years. And Ukraine was bombing them for 8 years, killing them, launching artillery strikes on the Donbass on civilians for 8 years. Nobody talks about this. This is never in the news. Nobody, people are going to hear this. Some people maybe will hear this and think, "Oh, that's a conspiracy. I never heard that. I didn't hear that from the New York Times or CNN, so that didn't really happen, or Fox News." But it did. It actually did. They allowed these neo-Nazi militias to go and rape and murder and torture people all over the Donbass. And so Russia's backed into a corner where they said, we cannot allow this to continue on anymore. They have pressure internally as well. Everyone thinks Vladimir Putin is just this dictator who could do whatever he wants, but he faces internal pressure as well to do something about it. And so this war is provoked. The United States, there's a reason that it happened after Trump was out, right? There's a reason that it took place because they're backed. Ukraine is backed by the American regime, 100%. And so it is, and part of it too is with Trump, Putin probably didn't know what he would actually do if the invasion was launched in 2018 or something. There might have been full on war, which is why this didn't happen. And so I clearly, like, the American regime's bet is that Russia will collapse. They want to force this economic collapse, and they want Russia to slowly die in this war of attrition. But it's not, based on every set of information available, the Russians, I mean, unless the Ukrainians are killing the Russians like 10, 20, 30 to 1, they're going to win the war.
Unless it's escalated by the West.
Yes. Unless it becomes a nuclear war, even like conventional strategic weapons on cities, right? If Putin starts strategically bombing Kiev and all of the major cities,
Mm-hmm.
then there will be retaliation from NATO,
Mm-hmm.
almost certainly.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's, I mean, I tell people all the time, like, we have no clue just how much we are on a razor's edge with regard to nuclear war right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in the most dangerous waters that we have been in at least our lifetimes.
Yeah.
You and me. This is the closest we've been to nuclear war, since we were born. And so it's very extremely dangerous. And so you have to give Trump credit here. This is the exact right answer. This is, way back. I mean, we were still in libertarian world, but way back in like 2015, I still remember. This is where I started to become very fond of Trump. Is at one of the debates, or maybe a town hall or something like this, or a campaign stop. He says something like, "Why are we even in NATO? Why are we even? The Soviet Union's gone. Why are we in there? We're subsidizing all these countries. We're paying for all these rich countries' defense. We have a military. They don't. Why are we in it?" And I'm like,
yeah, I can't believe he said that.
whoa, you said that for real? Like, he wants to get out of NATO. We should be getting out of Iraq and Afghanistan, all these places. Like, yes, of course we should. Why do we have thousands of troops in Germany? Right? For what possible reason do we? Well, because we want to be able to dominate their economies
and their culture,
and say, guess what, Angela Merkel, you need to take 1 million Syrians or else.
Right.
And they say, yeah, jawohl, we'll do it. And they'll destroy their economy. We bombed the Nord Stream pipeline.
Yep.
We bombed.
Everybody knows it. Yep.
The source of all of their energy, so that they couldn't sabotage the war effort, so that they couldn't force an end to this war. And they just took it, right? They just said,
yeah, well, that's how they've,
what do we do?
That's literally how Germany has behaved in the last, 50 years,
Yeah, I mean, it's a country
crazy.
that's totally broken obviously by the Second World War. Like, they're not a sovereign state.
Well, it's not just the Second World War, it's the post-war. It's like the American occupation. Yeah.
No, yeah, they're defeated in the war, and then they're an occupied people ever since.
Right.
By both the Soviets and the United States.
Yeah.
And
in fact,
their culture has been destroyed by us.
Yeah, and Paul Gottfried, I mean, he is the guy that has talked about this more than a lot of people, but just the fact that
oh, by the way, do we have breaking Paul Gottfried news? Can we announce any?
Yes, he'll be on in late May. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring him on in late May.
Sorry to interrupt. Continue with your point.
No, what was my point? No, my point was my point was basically that all the like the social engineering and stuff that happens here, Germany was a test field for that. Like all the things that is happening to us now has already been done. It's in Germany. Germany was the test case for so much of what we're seeing now. We did that to Germany, and they are a completely subverted and mentally occupied people.
Yeah, I mean, you even just looking at it like economically, culturally, they had the guest worker program in the 80s and the 90s. It began where they brought in a bunch of Turks, and Germany became a partially Turkish country, and I mean, Turks are Muslims. They are not. Yeah. They are not like they don't have the same.
And Germans are just full of so much self-loathing and self-hatred. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like that's what's happening. That's what's going to happen here. Unless people like really begin to defend their heritage and stand up for it.
Yeah, unless you say, I don't care if you think America is the most racist country in world history. I love my country, and it's the best country that's ever existed, and you can leave then. Like that's the line you got to take, and you just need to be proud of your country, warts and all, and say this is my people. You don't like it, get out of here. And so, but that's the Germans though. We did suffer this disastrous war where all of our best young men are dead or broken and wounded. We didn't suffer a thing like anything like. I mean, we've lost Iraq and Afghanistan or however you want to put it. We have disastrous military campaigns, but our own homeland wasn't destroyed and broken, our cities razed. That didn't happen. And then the Red Army coming in and raping all of our women, that never happened to us.
Yeah.
But we still are being conditioned in the same way that you should.
And Americans don't even know that happened to Germany. Like
No.
most people have no clue what happened in Germany. Most people have no idea. Like millions of people were sent to Russian like prison camps after the war.
Yeah.
Millions of Germans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people could. We should actually. I know an author that has talked about this, and we should probably have him on too. Like eventually.
Okay.
These are all good.
On-air production meeting. We will we'll have this guy join us.
We have to run it past. We're all going to make it, and then we can.
Yep. Our executive producer. We're all going to make it. He will have to. He'll have to approve all guests. But yes, we. We. Where was I going? Yeah. The history of America. I mean, yeah. You're right. Germany is this testing ground, but Ukraine is the same. A similar thing, where all of the social engineering, all of the crazy stuff that's being done in our country, all the woke stuff, they're speed running it through Ukraine. Like Ukraine is this very traditionalist, Eastern European society, and they're degeneracy maxing that country like crazy. They're pushing all the gay stuff. Like that's the condition. Like Zelensky, hey Zelensky, you got to push homosexuality and transgenderism and so on and so forth, and bring in millions of sub-Saharan Africans. And he's like, okay, give us F-16s and billions of arms,
right.
In exchange. We'll do whatever. And so he's selling his country out, for a pittance, basically. And that's what's happening here. That's what the GOP represents. Like he's the closest analog, I think, to the GOP. Where it's like, oh, we could get the GDP maximized. All it will cost you is your soul. That's what American conservatism has been for the last 50 years. And Trump, despite not being a good and wholesome Christian man, represents a reaction to this theme. And speaking of Trump, there's a few more clips I'd love to play for us.
Sure.
If they will work. Hopefully, yeah. You need
I'm
to
yawning.
Get some kombucha. Stat.
Negotiating with NARA. Do you know what NARA is?
The National Archives.
Extremely
But you don't
left
negotiate
group
with
of
them.
people. Extremely left. And I was negotiating with
They're
them.
not
All of a
left, they're
sudden, they
bipartisan.
raided my house. They
Bipartisan
didn't
is left.
raid the house of
Yeah. Bipartisan. He is extremely left. Okay.
Joe
Let's
Biden.
go.
They didn't raid Obama.
Joe Biden didn't ignore a subpoena to get those documents back like
Joe
you
Biden
did. And so
took
that's the question.
1,850 boxes.
But that's the question that investigators have, I think, is why you held on to those documents when you knew the federal government was seeking them and then had given you a subpoena to return them.
Number one, he's the president of the United States. He can take whatever documents he wants. Okay, we'll
And
continue on.
declassify them.
Are you ready? Can I talk?
Yeah, what's
You
the
mind?
answer?
Do you mind?
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to
That's
answer.
why I asked it.
It's very simple to. You're a nasty person. I'll tell you.
We're back. We're back.
Woo!
Like, okay.
You're so back.
Let me tell you, okay, part and parcel of the right-wing strategy has to be like an anti-journalist facade. You have to have an anti-journalist, like you have to be confrontational. You have to realize that these journalists, these media spokespeople, the commentator class, they are the enemy of the people, and they need to be confronted like this. Can't be nice to them, right? They're not church-going members. They're not going to show up at your potluck. They want to destroy your potluck.
They don't want to be your friends, and you don't have to pretend they should be your friends. Well, I mean, the other thing is, I mean, yes, this is how you should do it, but the difference is, like, I don't know if you saw the DeSantis press conference in like Israel. You know, he went to Israel to sign a hate speech bill.
Yeah, that was weird.
And he goes to Israel to sign the hate speech bill, and then he does a press conference in Israel, and the press was very hostile to him. And he did it like Trump is cool as a cucumber, just everything's water off of a duck's back, you know, and he'll get his jabs in where he's like, you're a very nasty person. But like he'll say stuff like that. Or if you saw his deposition, the video of his deposition where he's talking to this lawyer who's deposing him, it's really funny. But this is a family show, so we can't play most of it. But he's funny in how he does it, right? He's humorous and charismatic, and it makes you like him when he attacks this woman in this way. When DeSantis did it, he just got really angry and nasty and shrill. He sounded like Hillary Clinton in a male body.
It's really hard to do. I probably wouldn't be able to pull it off either. But Trump has the proper demeanor for it.
He is, and this is where another thing, like, I'm going to praise Ronald Reagan, but it's usually, where are you going with this? Reagan was an actor, and so he was excellent on television, right? He could work a crowd, he could work the camera, he could deliver lines like nobody else, and Trump is the same way. Right, Trump could do these one-liners, and they're hilarious. He's been manipulating the New York City media and big media for the last 30 or 40 years. And he knows exactly how to press their buttons and get them going. He sets them up into traps. I mean, this is, and, you know, whether we want to admit it or not, we want to think the media doesn't have any power or blah, blah, blah. Yes, they do. They have major power, and you have to be able to disarm them and humiliate them, right? That's the name of the game. Like, the regime survives on the power of the media and mass media propaganda. They survive on that, and so it's absolutely crucial to have someone like Trump who can make them look ridiculous. You need that. It is imperative, and if you don't have him, right, he's old now, right? This is his last rodeo, I think. You're going to need another guy who can do that. And I don't think it's, you know, I like Ron DeSantis. I like him. I like him a lot. But he's not good at that. He cannot do that at all. Donald Trump can.
And the thing about it is, too, is you're going to need someone who's even more confrontational, because the media is just going to get worse from here. That's the thing.
Yes, exactly. They're going to get much, much worse. The final clip that we have from President Trump, I think, you know, actually, it's probably the most important in terms of getting to the heart of the matter of the regime and what it is. So we'll play for you.
Question to you is, will you pardon the January 6 rioters who were convicted of federal offenses?
I am inclined to pardon many of them. I can't say for every single one, because a couple of them probably they got out of control. But you know, when you look at Antifa, what they've done to Portland, and if you look at Antifa, look at what they've done to Minneapolis and so many other places. Look at what they did to Seattle and BLM. Many people were killed. These people, I'm not trying to justify anything, but you have two standards of justice in this country, and what they've done, and I love that question, because what they've done to so many people is nothing. And then what they've done to these people, they've persecuted these people. And yeah, my answer is, I am most likely, if I get in, I would say it will be a large portion of them. You know, they did and it'll be very early on.
It'll be very early on.
They're living in hell right now.
So when it comes
they're
to
living in hell. And they're policemen, and they're firemen, and they're soldiers, and they're carpenters and electricians, and they're great people. Many of them are just great people.
Yeah.
Did you see Russell Moore mentioned this exact clip, you know, in his response to it. But yeah, one of the craziest things is, like, they'll show, like, really scary pictures of like that are, like, almost look green screened, and like how perfect they are for regime narrative framing. But, like, none of these people have ever been identified in any of these pictures. They're, like, literally, there's just no proof of them doing anything harmful.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre. Like, the idea that you would even consider this, like, some controversial decision.
Yeah, they stood on the steps of the Capitol and
waved a flag. It's like, what?
Now they're going to prison for 5 years.
Yeah, and they're also living in like really serious conditions. Like, if you see some of the descriptions of what's going on, like, this isn't a joke. You know, this isn't a nice cushy prison, like 24-hour prison. No,
this is solitary confinement. They don't get to see the sun for, you know, now 3 years or 2.5 years. I mean, this is like third world prison conditions that they put these men in. I think it's all men. I don't know if there's any women there. Maybe there are. Someone in the comments could correct me if I'm wrong. But he's absolutely right that there are two standards for justice, and it isn't just January 6th. I mean, it's also, and he brought this up, it's with Joe Biden, right? And everyone knows this, right? Everyone with a brain, anyway, understands this, that the regime will protect its own, that we live under a narco tyranny, that they'll come down with an iron fist on the regime enemies, and look at Trump's conviction this week, or not conviction, his he was found liable this week. And this was also in the
witch hunt
commentary. Yeah. Where this is what happened. So some woman who Trump claims to have never even met before, or didn't know this woman at all, she claims that he sexually assaulted her, or she claims that he sexually assaulted her. And then one of the other complaints, one of the other things he was suing for, is that he defamed her because he pled his innocence publicly and said that this woman's lying. So the most insane, most insane jury verdict on this, right? The most insane awarding of the civil suit, is that they did not find him liable for sexual assault, but they did find him liable for defamation, saying he didn't sexually assault this woman. Mm-hmm. So he didn't do it, but in pleading his innocence, he defamed her. It's the most insane that you could absolutely hate Trump, and if just say it's man X, John Doe, that this happened to, you would look at this is absolutely absurd and ridiculous that this would happen. Yeah. But the entire judiciary system is a joke. Yeah, it's an absolute joke that you could, if you get a trial in the correct jurisdiction, and it's in any way ideological, in any way political, the result is already known.
Well, here's the other thing. Like, I'm not committed to like defending Trump's like sexual morality or anything like that, because I don't think of the function that Trump plays in terms of like a serious like political figure that much. Like, he's just kind of a symbol to me. But like, the idea that they have to come up with these like really far-fetched narratives is actually surprising to me. I would think someone like Trump in his position in New York City as a billionaire, like, I'm actually surprised that there isn't more like really realistic situations that are coming out. Like,
why isn't there more dirt on him than that?
Yeah, that's really bizarre to me, because I would anticipate that someone like Trump with his personality would be in much more trouble. Like, it just surprises me that this is what they come up with. Like, it's ridiculous.
Well, I remember all the way back to 2016, of October of 2016, everyone freaking out over the Access Hollywood video. Yeah. And what that did for me, maybe I'm just weird, but what it did for me was like, that's all they got on him.
Yeah,
this is saying that on a video. Like, it's bad, obviously, but like, that's all they got on him.
This is how the cultural elite. Like, how do you think all these people, like, they subsidized to the tune of trillions of dollars the most deranged, degenerate, decaying cultural icons in world history? Like, like, that's just kind of like the American way right now. Like, the idea that he hasn't participated in this is just because, but he doesn't play. I don't treat him as like a serious political phenomenon, like as a person. So I'm not committed. Exactly. I'm not committed to defending his sexual morality.
No. His function is not that as a man, bringing morality back to America, and like political figures don't do that at all. Anyway, like that. The other thing that people like, the thing that is sickening to me is the baseline expectation that you should have if you're not mentally deficient, is that all politicians are bad people personally. Mm-hmm. Like, they're all you should just assume every single one of them is a degenerate. They all cheat on their wives, or they're all secretly gay. Like, that's what you should just assume. And you should assume not the worst, but close to it with all of them, and be pleasantly surprised when you're wrong.
Yeah, it's a prerequisite. It's a prerequisite to power. How do you think power works in this country? Like, you have to go through certain hoops in order to get there, and a lot of them are blackmail hoops. So this is the kind of the norm.
Yeah, there has to be compromise of one kind or another on everybody, and that's how politics works.
What is his name? Madison Crawford. Is that his name? Madison Crawford. Cawthorn. Yeah, he exposed exactly why, and the fact that he really called this out is why he's not in office right now.
Yeah, so that's why they got rid of him, because he said like he gets invited to cocaine and stripper parties, and it's like,
because those are mechanisms of control. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. Like the lobbyists go get a bunch of hookers and drugs and give them to the congressman. Like that's like, does anybody think politics? Like, I mean, I know, and when we were in grade school and we watched, I'm just a bill sitting on Capitol Hill. Like we thought, like this is how government works. It's just you got your checks and your balances, and you got your committees, and then it goes, goes to the floor and blah blah blah. And it's like that's not how politics works at all. Politics works through bribery, through extortion, through sexual favors, things like that. Like they're really disgusting people, and there are only a handful of them that are squeaky clean. And you want to know how you could tell that who the squeaky clean guys are? They're the backbenchers that don't get put in anything in any prominence anywhere. Those are the squeaky clean guys, the guys that nobody else likes, and doesn't bring into any position of real power. Those are like Thomas Massey. I think he's squeaky clean because he is totally on the outside of and I know people that know him personally, totally on the outside of everything. And so it's like, well, he's not going to the parties that Cawthorn was being invited to. Like, that's just how politics works. And so, so the sickening thing is how Christians get manipulated this way, because all these guys have to do is say, well, I'm pro-life and I am a man of God and I'm a man of faith and I care so much about justice and righteousness and blah 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 blah, all the platitudes, right? They utter them all day long. I'm 100% pro-life. Well, you see what happened after Roe was taken down? How many guys who were 100% pro-life instantly became, well, we got to make some exceptions, and I really
we need some nuance in there. Like
okay,
all the nuance bros came out of the woodwork. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And so I like all of it to me is just this sick joke. And Christians should not be manipulated this way. These are not good people. And so guys like David French and Russell Moore and people like that, their function is to make you look at the fake Christians that are in politics and say, these are the good, virtuous people. Look at Mitt Romney. I mean, well, one, he's Mormon, but like, look at Mitt Romney, right? This man, this virtuous, wonderful man. Look at all these, look at John McCain. Look at all of these honorable men. And they're not. They're not even a little bit. Any of these guys.
But the other thing too, like, part of the problem with politics is like, even if you live a completely squeaky clean life, like if you're not doing anything to fight the regime, the administrative state in Washington that continues to like undermine like the Christian faith, our heritage in our communities, all the things that we hold dear to us, the well-being of our children, all those things, like the idea that like your squeaky cleanness is going to like atone for your participation in that is just beyond my ability to digest. Like I have no interest in someone who does nothing politically. These are political problems. I have no interest in like everybody.
This is war.
Like, right.
This is war. And so if I'm looking
you have to play politics.
I'm looking at war, right? I'm not going to look at the general and say, well, is that guy a good guy or a bad guy? Like, would I want him in my church? Would I want to be his pastor and have to deal with all of his issues and so on and so forth? I mean, everybody's welcome in my church, but would I want it? What am I looking for? Am I looking for a potential elder in my church when I'm looking at a political leader? No, I'm not. I'm looking for someone to crush the people that want me and my children dead and broke. Like that is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone who will fight on our behalf.
Right.
Like that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for, well, is he a really moral person? Is he really virtuous and a good man? Has he ever committed adultery? Because like if you're looking for that and that's the standard, you're not going to find anyone to fight for you. That they don't exist.
Right.
And or you're going to
like I think
you're going to get someone you're not going to get anyone to fight. You'll get somebody who is tepid and weak.
Yeah, I think you and I could come up with a list of like 10 things for the perfect candidate, but that's not how politics works. You don't get to pick and choose like a buffet, like how you want, like design your own candidate, right?
Yeah. It's not a video game, right? Where we're tweaking the metrics, like a Madden football player. We're going to give him an 89 overall. Like that's not how these things work. Like you have leaders that have strengths and weaknesses, but the biggest and most important thing is he willing to fight your enemies on your behalf. And Trump did. I mean, not perfectly by any means, but he did, and that's what you need. And this is why DeSantis is the clear like number 2 in many people's minds, because he's also a guy who fights. I mean, I want to give him credit as well. These are guys that at least fight our enemies, and that I think that's the biggest issue. I mean, you mentioned Russell Moore, and you mentioned these evangelical leaders who, I mean, they sicken me to no end. I can't describe just how much I loathe these people. They disgust me. I mean, just I might hopefully I don't throw up on camera here, because they're horrible. They make me nauseous just to think of them, because they're so fake. They're so phony. I mean, these are. I mean, you want to look at who the Pharisees are. Like, that's the big epithet that's thrown around in evangelical Christian circles. Like, these men are the whitewashed tombs, right? That's what they are. That is their whole function, is to be whitewashed tombs and to lead God's people down the wrong path. And so they have to be fully repudiated. They have to be crushed, right? They have to be. They should be humiliated at every opportunity. So. You wanted to talk a little bit more about Russell Moore, and his statements on Trump. So we
probably have like
Trump, but also Tucker.
10 minutes
you have
left. Yeah.
Well,
I wanted to. Yeah, I'm interested in like the framing. I mean, obviously the Tucker news was interesting, and I think we talked about that last. Did we talk about that last week?
A little bit. We talked about Tucker 2 weeks ago when he was fired from Fox News. But the big news now is that Tucker is going to resume
on Twitter.
Show
right.
On Twitter now. Yeah.
And Russell Moore, hardest hit. Poor guy. Not really. Just it's just interesting to see how much Russell Moore loathes the people who defend and speak out against like regime politics. Like Tucker was kind of a lone dissenter in terms of like his function within the media apparatus, and Russell Moore is one of the great beneficiaries of like of Fox News silencing people like that. Russell Moore and David French and all these regime evangelicals need the silence of Tucker Carlson, and he needs the silence of all of these people that dissent from their framework, and so you can see that in just his framing of things. And I wrote an article about it, and we don't need to get into it, but you can go read it. But I'm just fascinated by the fact that Russell Moore really he's really bothered by Tucker Carlson. He's really bothered by anyone who dare to dissent and oppose and confront regime narratives on a consistent basis.
Yeah, he because these men fundamentally they're propagandists,
right?
They're propagandists to Christians.
Yeah,
that's to fit within the regime.
That's what the function of a regime evangelical is you're supposed to communicate regime narratives to your constituency, which is like the mass evangelical community. That's his function. Is he needs to propagate in like like a funnel, like to bring it in and then use Christian language, dress it up in Christian language and Christian rhetoric, and then communicate it back to the people. And so therefore, when the people begin to question him as a newsreader, that's his function, like on the Rome clips with the newsreader who's like giving official pronouncements, like
Gaius Julius Caesar.
Exactly. Like that is his role. He's a regime propagandist. And the evangelical community at large is beginning to question people like that. And Russell Moore's fighting for his turf. He's fighting for attention because Tucker Carlson is absorbing their attention, and they take Tucker Carlson more seriously than they do Russell Moore. And so Russell Moore needs to double down, and he got a victory. But it was kind of short-winded. I think Tucker's going to do much better on Twitter even than he was at Fox.
Yeah, I think his shows will get millions and millions of views. Like, he would get 3 to 4 million views a night on Fox News.
Yeah, he already has $14 million on his very first announcement, right?
Views. Yeah, 14 million.
What
views
did I say?
Dollars. I don't think.
No, I didn't. I said views. Did I say dollars?
Yeah, we'll check back. We'll check the tape later.
Okay.
I'll
send you some Greco gum if you're right.
Well, I'll get it in like a month. But
maybe.
That's generous. His most recent announcement, I think it had 100 million views on the tweet. If we could trust, Elon Musk's accounting of views, but he'll do very well, I think, on that. And so his function as a counter narrative producer, a counter narrative former, is going to be retained, and there's an opportunity that he'll be more powerful. Like, I mean, just one of the first things he did right after getting fired was he was like, "Hey, don't you think it's weird that on 9/11 this building 7 that's not even like wasn't hit by an airplane, wasn't hit by falling debris or anything, just randomly free fall collapsed a few hours after all the other buildings? Like, what caused that? Why did that happen?" And like the narrative is the furniture caught on fire and that's what caused the building to free fall. And it's like, what? Like, that's a suspicious thing, right? It's a suspicious thing, and you sort of wonder, right? Like, when he's at Fox, he could never talk about things like that.
Right.
He'd never be able to like question the 9/11 narrative. And I mean, although at the same time, like the official Twitter policy is like, I mean, if you see this, you could be like that video could have been reported and gotten banned on Twitter for denying. Like, that's one of the categories, denying a violent event. And so they bring up like the Holocaust and 9/11 and Sandy Hook. And so people are like, well, that just means saying it didn't happen. Like, nobody says 9/11 didn't happen. It's about the conspiracy theory that the government did it, or the Mossad, or whomever else. That's what's getting people banned. But he went there and did it. And I think what his one of his functions might be is to force Musk to continue to revise the censorship policies that are already existent at Twitter, if that's going to be his main platform that he uses. That'll be a thing that pushes him to free it up even more, Lord willing.
Oh yeah,
maybe. So that's, I mean, I'm excited for it. Like, he clearly, like, his producers, at least his writers, follow lots of us and our friends on the internet. I mean, so many of the ideas and thoughts that we all engage with online, his producers do as well. And so it's remarkable. Like, he's able to tap into the right wing dissident energy and mainstream a lot of things. Like, just the idea. I mean, just the talk of like demographic replacement, and how, I mean, one, it's just obvious, right? I mean, literally, all you have to do is look at statistics.
Well, not even statistics, but like, just go to your towns where you grew up. Like, go
I
to
can tell you about my town.
Go to suburban areas.
We have 5 restaurants. We have 5 restaurants in my town.
Yeah.
3 of them are Mexican restaurants in Minnesota. Right, 3 of the 5 restaurants. The fourth is owned by one of the other Mexican restaurant owners. It's an American restaurant, but the owner is from Mexico. So, like, we have a packing plant here. So we have tons of migrants that come every year. Like, this is part of life in modern America. This is not the way it always was. So yeah, you can look at that, but yeah, just looking at the stats, man, like, that is it's a verifiable, demonstrable fact. And so you have these people, like somebody, I think our critic, it's like, you were pushing the great replacement conspiracy theory. And it's like, what do you mean conspiracy theory? Like, you saying it's not happening? Because, like, I can show you.
Well, I mean, like,
I can show you people cheering for it on the Stephen Colbert show when they say white people aren't a majority in America
and
anymore.
bragging about it online.
Yeah, woo! Yeah, they brag about it. They think it's great. Oh, you white people your days are numbered.
Well, look at like Southern California. I live in California, so like, look at Southern California. Like, in 1960, it was 70% white. Right now, it's like 32% white. Like, that by definition is a demographic replacement. Like, there's no other way of defining it. Like, that's it, right
and
there.
So, like, the conspiracy theory is like, well, that just happened, like,
organically, right?
Accidentally. It's just they showed up, and no one caused it. And it's like, in my state, we have 80 to 100,000 Somalis. It's like, they didn't cross the continent of Africa and then swim the Atlantic to come to Minnesota, right? They were actively settled here by the federal government, right? This was intentional and purposeful. And this is what happens. this is what they've done. Like it's the idea that this is a conspiracy. I mean, it's so ridiculous. That to call it like I have so little respect for anybody who acts like it's not a thing. Like come on, like this is real. You should if you are afraid of talking about it, you are a coward, and I will bully you. Like that's the reality. Like you're a coward and you're weak. I think that's probably all the time we have for today for our different topics. But before we go, what do you have coming out this week? I know you did a lot of work with Chronicles this week, CJ. What's cracking for you?
I did interview Paul again for Chronicles, and I'm really excited because we had like a 20-minute discussion about his favorite and least favorite U.S. presidents, which is exciting. It's always fun to.
You're gonna tease. Can I guess?
Yeah, guess his favorite. He actually mentioned a couple.
Give me the century. Can you give me the century of his favorite?
I'm trying to remember what he said. Okay. Yeah. He said, well, he picked one from each. He picked one from each century, yeah.
I mean, my favorite of the 20th century, I wonder if it's the same. It might not be. I mean, I for Paul, maybe it's...
20th century is hard.
Very hard. I mean, mine is Richard Nixon, but I don't think that would be Paul's. Dr. Gottfried's. I can't call him Paul. Can't do it.
You can call him Paul.
When we have him on. I don't know if I can. You posted about Jimmy Carter right after the interview. I wonder if that. No, not say Jimmy Carter.
No. I was just being like
Calvin Coolidge.
Yep, that was it.
Yes. Okay, I'll everyone can watch the episode on Chronicles to find out.
It was Coolidge.
Yes. Nailed it.
Yo, do you have a guess for the 19th century? Oh, okay. Actually, I know who his favorite in all history. It was very quick to his mind, and then he thought about his backups. But his favorite.
I mean, it's not the joke of.
It's not 20th century.
Was it who died? Was it Millard Fillmore who died in office?
No, it's not that. No,
William Henry Harrison. Yeah.
6 months, right?
Yeah, after a month. Yeah, he got pneumonia. Yeah, he got pneumonia and died. Gosh, I don't know. This is a fun game. Rutherford B. Hayes.
He did mention him as one of his top, which is interesting to me.
Yeah.
But no, his favorite is actually someone that you'll never guess because you're actually not. You're not thinking about him. But it's George Washington.
Yeah, I mean, I see that.
Favorite.
Yeah. I mean, that's of course, that's good. That's a good answer. I mean,
yeah.
And why not? I mean, it was
so his least
absolutely
favorite.
Absolutely great man. Yeah. Well, let's. I don't want to spoil your episode.
Okay.
Yeah. People need to watch the whole thing. I'm looking forward to watching.
And then we went into Europe, and we talked about who his favorite European statesmen were. So, anyways, it was a good conversation.
He loves Bismarck.
He does, actually.
Yeah.
Probably more than I do.
Yeah.
Probably more than I do, actually. Yeah.
Man.
Why don't you write the biography?
I'm looking forward to meeting him. Online anyway.
And then so then my other post this week at my Substack, I actually just gave kind of a personal. I called it I was trying to think of a way to explain it, but it's just my religious warrant for why I'm a paleoconservative, and I really am not in the the R2K, the Reformed, or the radical Two Kingdoms camp of Escondido. I'm really just not there. And I'm also not a transformation. And we don't need to get into this, and we have slight disagreements, but I'm not, I don't think like a theonomist does. Yeah. And so I just kind of broke down some categories that explained me. It was kind of a one-time reference post if anyone's interested.
No, I think that's really good too. I mean, I've come to a lot of the same, conclusions where I'm not fully this Two Kingdoms guy, although I appreciate it. I've grown to appreciate it more and more over the last 4 or 5 years, especially because of Stephen. Especially because of Stephen Wolf.
Well, people didn't know. People didn't know there was a difference between the classical and the modern and how different those were.
Well, I mean, yeah. I when I thought of Two Kingdoms, I thought of Escondido and R. Scott Dork, and I didn't, I didn't think that these were I just thought if this is a way to wimp out of any political discussion for Christians, to say, well, we can't talk about that.
And it has been.
Yeah,
been.
Yeah. Absolutely. Or I thought about, the big proponents of it were like, the guys at the Calvinist International and then later Davenant, were the big 2K guys, and they've done a great job. I mean, tons of scholarly academic work that is really useful. But then I look at like their actual politics, at least the leading figures, and I'm like, I don't want anything to do with that either. Like these guys are weak. They're really whippy,
one of the things I want to say something about this because I agree with Stephen on this, and he really thinks that like Brad Littlejohn, and I don't want to speak for him, like, so I'm going to make this my own position. Okay. I really look up to Brad Littlejohn and his historical work, but I don't have any relationship to his practical application of those things.
Yeah, that's it's astounding.
Position. I mean, that's my position too. Yeah. I really do appreciate what he's done historically and theoretically, but I just have I'm like on the way opposite end of the park for the application. So
yeah, same here. I think, I mean, I've read his books. I read his 2K book, and I mean, I recommend it to people. So like it's really good stuff. But it's like it's kind of like they sit in Moses' seat. So listen to their teaching. Just don't do what they do. Don't say, "Oh yeah, let's lock everything down and everybody get pentuple vaxxed." Woohoo! Don't look at their application. It's really stupid and weak and wimpy. And we've gone down this road a million times, at least online. But at the same time, I've grown this because I think Stephen has provided a not just a plausible system where you can be a paleocon, you could be this right wing reactionary, and yet there is a Christian political theological basis for it. And it's not like my political leanings or feelings are the cart that's driving the horse. I think it's just trying to deal with reality and deal with the situation as it is. Mm-hmm. And you encounter all of these various kind of silly Christian ideas and strategies and systems for politics, and they just make no sense at all. They're totally defeatist. They're totally they shut down any possibility of Christian discussion, any possibility of mm-hmm. of actually the gospel having an effect. Because there was this, we've talked about this, and this is a horse that we've beaten dead several times. But this is kind of like after hours, extra bonus content here. But mm-hmm. I mean, Doug Wilson's recent post, and you're going to have him on Chronicles too. Him and
June actually. Yeah.
His recent post, responding to the G3 guys, is really good. I mean, this is stuff. This is right in Doug's wheelhouse of stuff that he says all the time. Has had a huge influence on me. Is okay. The gospel goes to kings. And Paul tells us we should pray for kings and emperors. And what are we praying for? Well, we want them to convert. So the king finally converts. The emperor converts. Now what do you do?
Now what? Right.
Now, just keep and these G3 guys are like, well, we're not going to have Christian laws, but we're not going to have pagan laws either. And so it's like, well, then what kind of laws are we going to have? That doesn't make a lot of sense, right? I mean, if the king goes to his pastor, right? If we're going back to Donald Trump, he wins the election, and he says he comes to me and says, Andrew, you're a pastor, and I want to rule as a Christian. What should I do? Right. Well, then we some of these guys are like, well, see you later. That's their attitude. Big gulps, huh? Well, that's the attitude of these guys is like, well, got nothing here for you, so good luck. Yeah. And so I think like Stephen's ability to point out that and just hammer this nail again and again and again, that Christian political tradition is fundamentally right wing. Mm. It's fundamentally right wing because it is within the reality of the created mm-hmm. order that God made. Right? Mm-hmm. There's hierarchy. God is the God of order, of truth, of goodness and beauty. And mm-hmm. leftism is a revolt against order and truth and goodness mm-hmm. and beauty. Fundamentally, mm-hmm. that's where it is. So like Christianity is fundamentally a right-wing religion, and Christian political theory is fundamentally rightist. It has mm-hmm. to be, right? There's no other way. There's no other possibility. And so that, of course, was appealing, and it made perfect sense. And it's like, well, maybe I haven't been given this two kingdoms, stuff a very fair shake, because until then, the only people that would say anything, that would, Christian, that was right sounding were Kuyperian types and Reconstructionist types. Like those are the only Christians who were, even ostensibly right wing. But the problem there is that you could shift from right wing as a Kuyperian post-mill guy easily into leftism, right? Just as easily. And
boy,
many such cases.
Many such cases. Yes.
Yeah. And so that's it. The 2K stuff is a check against that. Even though I'm not like going to be. I'm totally on board with every possible idea, because I mean we went on Joel Webbin's show and I mostly agreed with everything he said, is that Jesus is king. He's king over all the kings, which I know 2K would admit that. But he's king over every single king right now. He's reigning from the right hand of God right now, over heaven and earth. And so he's Joe Biden's king, whether Joe Biden submits to him or not in what he does. So I believe all that's true. All that's true. But I think the distinction between the two kingdoms actually is makes sense, right? The classical Protestant formulation is not what I thought it was initially. So I think I'd love to have everybody check that out at what is it, contramordor.substack.com?
No, it's I actually use my name for that, CJ Ingle.
Okay.
But the name of the Substack is Contra Mordor.
That's right. Okay.
So CJingle.substack.
We'll have a link for it in the show notes here.
Yeah.
We're gonna get a link tree, right? Is that something?
Yeah. So we're gonna get a link tree. So actually, by the time this goes up, if you go to contramundumpodcast.com, it'll redirect to our link tree, and so we'll have a bunch of stuff over there. Hopefully. So make sure before this goes live that I've done my work. So
and anyways. I'm not gonna wait until I get my Greco gum. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
But for me, I'm going to have now that I'm back home, healthy. I've been under the weather for a while here. I have an article that hopefully by the time you're watching this, listening to this, that'll be posted, where we're going to talk about it for Gab News. We're going to talk about Galatians 3:28 and how that in current year is the most misused Bible verse. It used to be Matthew 7:1, judge not lest you be judged. Now it's Galatians 3:28. Yeah, right. There's no Jew nor Greek, male nor female. That
crazy
is
how easy that is to knock over. Like what? Give us something hard. Like that's just a paper freaking castle.
But the thing is, Satan loves to take God's word out of context, and so it's important for God's people to be equipped for that battle, and that's where the battle lies right now. So keep your eye open for that article, and also, unfortunately, we've gone way over time here, so we definitely do not have time for We're All Gonna Make It, the executive producer. So sorry, We're All Gonna Make It, the poster, We're All Gonna Make It. We don't have enough time for you this week.
He's just not gonna make it. Like we keep promising, and
he's not gonna make it this time. But again, if you enjoy the show, please like, subscribe, comment. Tell us what you think. Tell us if you think we're totally crazy on whatever points, or tell us how much you think we're just super geniuses. If you made it this far, hopefully you had a lot of fun. We really appreciate you all listening, all your support as the podcast has grown, continues to grow, and hopefully when we get to a big following number, maybe we get to a milestone. Maybe we'll do a live show where people can join us and have questions. Then I won't be able to edit out all of CJ's really spicy takes. So make sure you subscribe wherever we're at. But until next time, we will see you next time.